So as little kids, we all have the craziest imaginations. I know for me, I always thought like, what if I belong to another family? What if my family's pretending to be poor just so that they can humble us? Things like that. What if I was a princess? Like, those fun stuff. And I remember like around 2006, I was sitting up and talking to my little sister, and to be malicious, I told her, what if I have another family? And then she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, what if I have other brothers and sisters? And, I knew that would hurt her feelings because she's my little sister, the only person I know. And she's like, no, stop, Iseline. And I'm like, Madeline, but what if daddy's not my real daddy? And I stopped after I saw that she was going to cry because she's like, no, don't say that. And then um, I kept that in the back of my head for some reason. I was like, what if? What if? I noticed a little subtle differences in our treatment in the family that I was like, So I sat on it for a while and I waited to get my mom alone. So 2 years later, I finally got my mom alone. And I was able to ask her, I said, hey, is daddy my real daddy? And she stopped, stared me in the face, and said, I can't lie to you anymore. I thought this woman was trying to get back at me for being mean to my sister. I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? And she goes, yeah, he's not. I almost passed out. I couldn't believe what was being told to me. And I mustered up, well, where is he? And she goes, well, he was murdered 2 years ago, unfortunately. And I was like, I thought about this 2 years ago and I didn't ask. Like, I couldn't even imagine if I would have asked sooner that I could have met this man. And we left it at that. And she took me to school because it was still school day. And I was sitting at my desk and I couldn't concentrate. I was trying to think of like, what the heck? Why didn't I ask earlier? How didn't I notice earlier? I always noticed some subtle things like our families treated me different. My adopted father's family treated my sister like she was the golden child, like she was the first kid, and I'm like, I'm the first daughter. And then my mom's side of the family treated me like, oh, first baby, you know what I mean? And I noticed the difference. So I just didn't get it in the fact that me and my sister, we look alike, but we didn't look alike. She was darker than me, she had curlier hair than me, and I just saw those subtle differences, and I always try to make up the reasons. Like, I'm like, oh well, I look like more like mommy, and you look more like daddy. That's it. That's all that could make sense. And then it just kept on going on throughout my head, and I was like, I have to get out of here. I don't even know why I came to school. And I had my mom pick me up, and I was asking her, I'm like, how come I wasn't told? And she told me that I had actually asked every couple years about him. And I thought that was so crazy that a little kid is that intuitive to the things around her to ask. And I was like, how come you didn't tell me? She's like, well, I just felt bad. And you did ask when you were younger, and I kind of brushed it off and just said, no, 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 baby. Like, of course daddy's your real daddy. And then I asked her, well, how come he's not in any of my baby pictures? And I was that kid. I always like asked a million questions, and still to this day until I get an answer. And her lack of answer made me feel like, oh, it's obvious. My dad, my adopted dad, was in the army, because he was, and I didn't know when he started and when he stopped. So I was like, he was in the army, and that's why I don't have any pictures with him, because he was away. And she was like, that's it, you got it, kid. So I stuck with that answer for the longest time. And I asked her, I'm like, do I have brothers and sisters? And she's like, actually you do. And I had pictures with them. So she put out the photo album. She's like, remember this party? And I was like, yeah. And then I had a picture with my brother and sister that she told me that they were just like cousins. You know how like Hispanic people go to people's houses and you're like, that's your cousin, that's your cousin, that's your cousin, go have a good time, you know, kind of thing. And I couldn't believe I was looking at a picture I've already seen, like it was brand new. Looked at their faces, I could see how much they look like me, and it was insane to have another part of me somewhere else. And I was like, do you know their names? And at the time there was MySpace, so I could like look people up, and I looked at my brothers and sisters, and I was able to talk to them and get that like little bit of closure, I want to say, and being able to say hey, and them telling me, hey, I remember you, we've talked about you, we don't forget about you, we love you, and Daddy always had a little picture of you as a baby in his sock drawer, and he pulled it out and he said, this is my most beautiful daughter. And that story I've heard multiple times, so like through everybody. And it was cool to be able to know that I had that other part of me and people that thought about me, and to learn that I was able to handle such a big thing, a big secret, without any kind of anger. I just was like, it is what it is. I was more than anything thankful for my father, the one that raised me, for taking the initiative to even do it, and not acting any different towards me than he would his own daughter, his blood daughter. And I remember for the longest time I actually didn't say anything to him about knowing, because I thought it would be a slap in the face, like to say like, oh, I even questioned that you were my father. That's what I thought. And I remember I broke down, I hugged him, and I said, thank you so much. And he was like, what is this for? Because I wasn't like a super affectionate kid. And I was like, it's because I love you and you love me. And that's the story of how I found out that I had a different dad than my sister, and I have a whole other family. And to this day, we all talk to each other and say hello, and we know each other. So it's really cool to know that as a kid I was resilient, and I know a lot of other kids are too, as long as you don't make it like weird. Thanks.